Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Celtic Way. It's Wednesday, 12th of November. We couldn't get anybody else, so you're stuck with myself and Ryan again. I'm Tony Haggerty. I'm joined by Ryan McGinley. How are you, Ryan, on this wonderful Wednesday morning?
Yeah, things are good. It's a little bit quiet because it's the international break. I wanted it to be a little bit more lively in the managerial hunt, but a couple of stories here and there, a couple of off-field stuff regarding Celtic, but this is the last international break until March. I'm looking forward to seeing the back of it, to be honest with you. Two big games for Scotland upcoming against Greece and Denmark. If they can beat Greece, then they set up a one-game shootout between themselves and Denmark at Hampden next Tuesday, which will be a massive game for everybody involved. Two Celtic players will be involved in that game. They're in the squad. But yeah, just on the Celtic front, it's a bit quiet at the moment. I wanted it to be a little bit more, I
A
don't know,
bit more,
lively in the
more
managerial hunt.
raucous. You want a wee bit more raucous, Ryan? Is that what you want it? Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good to me, Tony. I don't know about you, but that sounds good to me.
We'll get into the nitty gritty of Celtic, but first and foremost, as we do every day, we say thank you to our sponsors, and they are It's Simply Furniture, and they're located in Hillington, Glasgow. And It's Simply Furniture, and an independent brand dedicated to bringing luxury and contemporary style into homes across the UK. They've got over a decade of experience in furniture retail, and they meticulously source only the finest pieces curated for quality, comfort, and timeless designs. From their elegant sofas to statement dining sets, their handpicked collections offer exceptional value without compromising on style, and their dedicated team ensure that your furniture is delivered with care right to your doorstep. And if you want to see the beauty up close, you can visit their stunning showroom in Hillington and mention the Celtic Way for a special in-store discount. And all the links will be on the description of this podcast. Ryan, wee bit of news emerged yesterday about someone heading out Celtic doors, and that is Jay Leferva, who has been the the what should be the Celtic's head of scouting operations, and he's agreed a move to English Championship side Swansea. He was hired by the former head of football operations, Nick Hammond, and he's been overseeing the Parkhead scouting system since December 2019. Does that surprise you, Ryan, or do you think Celtic are heading for some kind of January shake-up, considering
Well,
Wilfred Nancy has been installed as the bookie's favourite to take the job?
yeah, and betting's have been suspended on a popular bookmaker site on that in that regard, so it would suggest that there's more in that, or that there's been a heavy flutter of bets in that direction, which maybe would suggest that some people know more than others, but you can only take that at face value, I would say, at the moment, until there's official confirmation, until there's solid reports that Nonce will take the job. We've got to take it with a pinch of salt, of course. But on Jay Lefevre, it's quite interesting that he's been at the club since 2019. I remember his name getting batted about in 2019 when he was installed as the head of scouting operations. I just think that that's an area, and it would seem as if Lefevre is leaving to go to a job in Swansea City, which is quite interesting because they've just sacked, or they're in the process of sacking their manager,
Yep.
Alan Sheehan, who has Darren O'Dea as one of his assistants. Adam Ida's down there as well, so plenty of Celtic connections. It looks as if there'll be another one in Jay Lefevre. I think it's just a good opportunity, even if this move was in the works for a wee while, a chance to really clear the decks and modernise Celtic. Maybe not modernise, but get a fresh face in there to take charge of the scouting, because it was pretty clear in the summer. I don't want to put scouting and recruitment in the same box, really, because you've got to scout these players and then you recruit them as well. But it's clear that the business wasn't the greatest in the summer. You've got players playing for the B team last night who you spent money on in the summer, and not just young players. You've got a 25-year-old Japanese striker playing for the B team last night. That would suggest that the scouting wasn't so good in the summer, and that the changes need to be made. By all accounts, he's agreed a deal with Swansea, and he'll be leaving
Yep.
the club. I'm interested to see who Celtic bring in as his replacement, but I'm all for change, especially with the way that things have been transpiring this season. If it's an opportunity to bring in a fresh face, then I'm all for it.
Yeah, I mean, there seems to be a lot of people, Ryan, asking what Jay Lefebvre's role actually was and what he actually did. Uh, and that's fair enough. I think, as you say, he was one of the names that you knew were in the scouting team, and you can argue the toss as to over the 6 years if he performed well in his role or not. The fact of the matter is he's leaving, and he has agreed a deal with Swansea, and Celtic will now be looking for a new head of football operations, as the job remit says. So we shall see what transpires with that. Ryan, now, guys, get your questions in. Myself and Ryan, I'll answer them. We always do this in international break. We'd have a kind of Q&A. So if you want to get something off your chest, you can, or you want to ask me and Ryan anything that's on your mind regarding Celtic, we'll endeavour to answer it as honestly and humorously as we can, if that calls for it. Indeed.
Yeah,
On the
people are talking
website
about
today,
the the B team game in the comments. Sorry, Tony, they
yeah,
get beat 2-0 off of off of East Kilbride, but they did go through to the next round of that competition that they're in at the moment. I think their previous results allowed them to go through, but it was a 2-0 defeat to East Kilbride last night. Shinyamada started the game but didn't score. Apart from that, it was pretty much a team of youngsters. But
okay,
yeah, Yamada didn't have the desired impact on the night.
fair enough. Thank you for that, Ryan. Guys, I've put in the comment section, if you wanted to read that, I spoke to Paul Lambert and John Hartson over the past couple of days and put what they're saying about the new manager and Martin O'Neill. Obviously, they played under Martin O'Neill, so you can read their thoughts on all things Celtic interim management and the key factor what any Celtic manager needs. So it's an interesting read, and you can get that on the website. Ryan, what else is happening? Alistair Johnston, he told us all about his surgery, didn't he?
Certainly
Via
did.
Instagram. And yeah, I'll just read out what he said. Seems a bit positive as well, Ryan. He
Hmm.
said, the past few months have been as challenging as any for me personally since my career began. With that being said, I am to say that I successfully underwent surgery to repair my hamstring, and hopefully this will be the first step in putting this injury behind me for good. Thank you for your support during this time, and I can't wait to be back fully fit later this season for a title push and a home World Cup. So that's as positive as it gets, Ryan, with the likes of Alistair Johnston. He came back, but he originally injured his hamstring against Kairat Almaty, came back and then did it again. So it's good to hear that he has had successful hamstring surgery, Ryan, and we wish him well in his rehabilitation and recovery. Look forward to seeing him back.
Absolutely. For me, he's one of the captains in the team. He's a leader both on and off the pitch for Celtic. He's also one of Celtic's best players. He's the top right back without a shadow of a doubt, and you can see the difference when he's taken out the team. How much weaker that side looks when Alistair Johnston isn't involved in the right back area. I'm glad that I'm glad that his operation went well. That he'll be coming back before the end of the season, hopefully sooner rather than later, so that, like he said, he can be involved in the title push. The good thing for him is that he pretty much knows that if he's fit, he's going to be playing at the World Cup in the
Yep.
summer. He's one of Jesse Marsh's most trusted lieutenants in the Canada team, alongside Alfonso Davies, and a couple of others. So he quite cheekily said a title push, a title charge, and I hope that he's back for that. Admittedly, I wanted him back in the team as quickly as possible when he came back from his injury, from the
Yeah.
injury against Kairat Almaty. Celtic, I don't know if I don't know if they rushed him back or it was just a reoccurrence of the same injury, but it happened early on in that Sturm Graz game. But at the same time, I wanted him to be playing, so I can't be too annoyed at it happening. These are just things that happen, and for a player like Alistair Johnston, you wanted to see him in the starting lineup once again. So the fact that he was taken off so soon after was incredibly disappointing. Yeah, the sooner he gets back, the better, because Celtic are a better team with Alistair Johnston in it. I love what he brings, both on and off the pitch.
Yeah.
At risk of repeating myself, but it's the same spiel when I'm talking about Johnston. I really enjoy the output that he gives, both in terms of playing ability and the leadership role that he brings.
Lots of questions coming in, Ryan. They're mostly to do with a new manager, as you would expect. It's the hot topic among Celtic supporters at the minute. So, first one from Wazaboy1888. Do you think Knutsen is a realistic option for Celtic? And on a similar theme, Natalie McMullen is asking, do you think Kjetil Knutsen will be the next Celtic manager? And yeah, so that's a kind of similar theme, Ryan, those two questions. So we shall take them on their merit. Do you want to have a
Yeah,
go at that?
yeah, I'll have a go. He's one of the top names for the Celtic job, and he's certainly a person of interest on Celtic's side as being a potential replacement for Brendan Rodgers. Whether or not he wants to come to the club is a completely different story. I mean, he's left it open in Norwegian media, saying that he would want to try a new challenge. He's been at Bodo Glimt for X amount of years now. He's brought them so much success. Three-time Manager of the Year, four-time league champion in Norway. Guided Bodo Glimt to the semi-finals of the Europa League last season. Currently in the Champions League. I'm naming his accolades. He brings plenty of accolades and experience. 57 years old as well, so he's not a young manager. He knows what he's doing, and he would know what he would be doing if he came into the club. My worry is more on the side of, do Celtic have the infrastructure, the correct infrastructure to facilitate somebody like Kjetil Knutsen? Are they prepared enough in specific departments to be able to work with somebody as passionate and as hands-on as Kjetil Knutsen? That's where my worry lies. Also, will he have better jobs on the horizon in the summer? Will he want to maybe take time out? He's been pretty much non-stop since he became the Bodo Glimt manager back in the day. Will he want to take a bit of a sabbatical before jumping into his next job? Will he maybe wait till the summer to see if there's any better jobs going about? It's an interesting one, but like you said, Tony, and you were quite passionate about it yesterday. You've got to ask the question for these people, because what's the worst they're going to say? No, I reject the job. That's all that's all they can do at this moment in time. And if you don't ask, you don't get. So if Celtic are interested in him, then they've got to ask the question. Do I think that he'll become the Celtic manager? I have my doubts, I'll be honest. I think that there's other candidates that are maybe further down the road in that regard. But I would love it to be Kjetil Knutsen personally.
Yeah. If you were tuned into the pod yesterday, you'll have heard my thoughts on Kjetil Knutsen, and I said he is the only realistic candidate. But what I want and what Celtic get might be one and two different things. But I had to laugh at one of the YouTube comments that said Ryan wasn't not sure if Tony wants Kjetil Knutsen or not, which did make me laugh. I love all that interaction; it's great. But yeah, I launched a firm defence of why I thought that Kjetil Knutsen was the man. And I also said that whoever comes in, they'll get the full support, whether that be Wilfred Nancy or Kieran McKenna as well. My preferred candidate is, of course, Kjetil Knutsen. So we shall see what transpires with that. More questions, Ryan, coming in, as you would expect. So Donny Tiny Hands is saying, would the new manager fail unless Celtic changed the structure of the club, Ryan? You kind of touched upon it there when you were talking.
Yeah, it depends on what you mean by fail, because there'll be people that'll be painting Brendan Rodgers in some ways as a failure, yet he delivered the league title in his 2 seasons at the club, delivered the League Cup and the Scottish Cup as well during that time. I think the barometer has changed now for Celtic, after especially seeing what the likes of Kairat Almaty and Midtjylland and Braga have done to Celtic in the past couple of months. I think it's really opened up a lot of Celtic supporters' minds and eyes on what they want Celtic to be. I think people are sick of players coming to Celtic Park and enjoying the atmosphere. We've spoken about that a number of times over the years.
Yeah.
We don't like it. I remember being actually quite annoyed reading what Tony Kroos had to say about Celtic Park, saying that he loved the atmosphere
Yep.
You're not supposed to love the atmosphere. You're supposed to crack under the pressure because it's a fortress, because it's a hostile atmosphere. And I think part of that comes down to the way that Celtic operate in Europe. If they speculate to accumulate and bring in the players and bring in the right development in players, then they can give these teams a bloody nose. But for too often this season, and it's happening away from home, and it's always happened away from home, adverse results, really bad results. But even at home, you want Celtic to be pushing forward in European competition. As much, I think that domestic football is Celtic's bread and butter, but at the same time, people want the European football to have more of a focus as the years go on. It's about time Celtic get with the times, get into the 21st century, and ply their trade in Europe effectively. Yeah. We saw glimpses of it last season, but it seems as if we hit a ceiling when it came to that, and we've regressed from that point, from last season to this season. So I want there to be more of a focus on Europe.
Yeah, I said it yesterday, and I've said it many times. You need a root and branch clear out of everybody, Ryan, I think, and really rip it up and start again. And that means scouting, recruitment. Those are vitally important areas for me. And I think any manager coming in would maybe ask for that. And then that's where your worry is that Celtic aren't prepared to give them that and foist upon them, members of staff. But anybody coming in needs their own backroom team, Ryan. They need their own recruitment staff, scouting staff. I just think Celtic really need to grasp the metal on this and really say, right, read the room, say, chance to refresh and reset everything and get it right, not just for domestic dominance, but to make themselves challengers in Europe in terms of really competitive. And I think that's what that Kairat Almaty defeat is the straw that's broken the camel's backs, because they see no ambition and there's no proactiveness there, Ryan. They're just reactionary all the time. They never spend from a position of strength. And the galling fact for Celtic is to read that they have so many millions in the bank, and they have a team that you would say at this moment in time is bereft of real quality. There's some decent players there, Ryan, but it's bereft of real quality that would make you competitive on the European stage. It's fine, it can cope domestically, but I just think the European stages, Celtic lack that X factor to get you a win against Midtjylland away, to beat Kairat Almaty, that kind of stuff.
The Kairat Almaty result still really irks me, because Celtic, even without the signings that they made, they're still a better team than Kairat, and that was down to a failure to prepare for that game. We all saw the game coming in the horizon. We knew roughly when Celtic were going to be playing, middle to the end of August, and the lack of signings up to that point made me believe and gave off the assumption and the belief that Celtic weren't taking the Champions League seriously. Yeah. They were taking it for granted that they would just go through. It almost made you think, or made you want Celtic to get the tougher draw, because you knew that they would probably prepare for that better rather than take it so lightly, which they did for FC Kairat. The home game was abysmal. The away game wasn't even a football game. It was just 120 minutes of absolute nothing, ruled or decided by a penalty shootout, which Kairat deserved. And they're actually doing better than I thought in the Champions League phase, which is all the more galling, to be honest with you. I just, on the coaches side of things, and you made the point about bringing in your own coaches, I think that is absolutely necessary for the next manager to bring in his own staff. And for me, that would signal an end for the likes of Gavin Strachan, etc. And I don't want people to be losing their jobs. That's the last thing I would want at Celtic. But I think it's important that the new manager coming in has full autonomy over who he's working with. All the decisions come from him on who he gets as his assistant manager, as his coaches. it's important that the new manager coming in has the people beside him to back him up, because I just think the dynamic has to be that way. That's my opinion on it.
It's, to all intents and purposes, Ryan, there's a staleness about Celtic at this minute. I think Martin O'Neill and the interim staff have come in and given it that wee shot in the arm, but that can take you so far, can't it? And, on that, Hazel Finn is saying, excuse me, would you like to see Martin O'Neill stay until after the cup final?
Depends, really. If Celtic's... I made the point yesterday, and I know we're at risk of repeating ourselves on these morning briefings, but we don't have anything else to base it on, manager-wise. We're still waiting on more developments on that front. If Celtic cannot get their preferred candidate, and I want to be abundantly clear about this, if Celtic cannot get their preferred candidate in, then I want Martin O'Neill to stay as the manager, because he's a safe pair of hands, provided that he's got the hunger and the appetite to stay on until that. And it's important that Celtic gauge that and discover that, because it's one thing saying it to the media, he could also be saying something completely different behind the scenes. So those conversations, we know that Dermot Desmond and Martin O'Neill will be speaking during this international break. Dermot Desmond will understand where Celtic are at in their managerial hunt, and that will decide the conversations, or the subject of the conversations between the two parties. If Celtic can't get their preferred candidate in by the end of this international window, then I've got no issue with Martin O'Neill staying on until after the cup final or longer. But if they can, if their manager's there and he's available, then I think it's only right that the new manager steps in and takes the role. Because it's a tough run of fixtures, but it's also an opportunity. The manager's first cup game could be a League Cup final against St Mirren. You've already got a trophy under your... If you win that game, if you go and win that game, you've already got a trophy in your cabinet so soon after joining the club. So, yeah, if a manager's available that Celtic want, then I've got no issue with Martin O'Neill leaving. But if he's not available, then Martin O'Neill should stay. Is where my current thoughts are on it.
I said yesterday, sentiment doesn't come into it. Martin O'Neill's results are keeping him there in the interim in terms of Celtic supposedly performing their due diligence on candidates. And there's also the whole Knutsen in January thing. If that's the case, lots of people putting two and two together with Wilfred Nolsey in terms of the bookies suspending, and as you say, somebody maybe know something more than we don't. But there isn't a lot to go on. There's not a lot of, normally you would sort of think that there would be more, not say leaks per se, but there would be more in terms of meat on the bone in terms of the Celtic managerial situation. It's all very kind of, I wouldn't say it's cloak and dagger per se, but there's a lack of information. What we do know is, or what we think we know, is that there's three preferred candidates: Wilfred Nolsey, Yetel Knutsen and Kieran McKenna. We even think that interviews have been penciled in. The only one interview penciled in is Martin O'Neill this week to talk to Dermot Desmond to see his thoughts on maybe taking the reins. And with him being at the St Mirren game on Saturday, there was a kind of indication that he might be in charge for the cup final and beyond.
Yeah. What will be interesting in this managerial hunt, and I think will be a giveaway, if it is going to be Wilfred Nonsey, then he'll get brought in this international break. His season's over with Columbus Crew.
Yeah.
He's available to come in right now. So if he doesn't come in the international break, it would suggest to me that Celtic are looking elsewhere for a manager, and that we shouldn't read so much into it. Now, he is the bookie's favourite at the moment. His name's been there for the 2 weeks, thereabouts in the list, which makes you think that there has been some chatter behind the scenes, even so soon after Brendan Rodgers leaving. If he doesn't come in the international break, I would assume that Celtic will be going for somebody like Kieran McKenna or Kjetil Knutsen, because Nonsey is available right now. He's got nothing else on his plate. Sure. Now is the time to bring him in. If that is to be the manager, there's people in the comments asking about Nonsey. We talked about him yesterday, but he's quite fluid in the way that he plays football, and he's not rigid, or he's not just sticking with one formation. He changes it
Yep.
depending on the game style, which is important. I think you've got to be pragmatic, and especially in European football, but also domestically as well. If you need to change it up, seems like a forward-thinking manager. He's got the approval of Thierry Henry, who he worked under at Montreal. He was actually, there's quotes coming out from a couple of years ago in which he praised the Celtic fans. He praised the Celtic supporters for being knowledgeable about Alistair Johnston, because he was keeping tabs on his former player. The two of them worked together at Montreal. So, he's already in the good books in that regard because of the nice things he said about the Celtic fans. He will need to get prepared to do more of that if he has to take the job. But I think this next week and a half will be the telltale signs on whether or not Wilfred Nonsi will become the Celtic manager.
Sure. Over 500 people joining us, Ryan. 510 people. We like to say thank you to them. If you like what we do, hit that subscribe button and we can reach to a wider audience. We'll try to grow the channel. Isn't that right, sir?
It certainly is, yeah. And if you subscribe to the channel, you'll get notified when we go live with these morning briefings. Also, the pre and post match videos, any pre-recorded videos that we've got, you'll get notified of when they go live on the channel, and you can join in on the live chat. Press that subscribe button and give this video a like, and it will go to more Celtic supporters. That means that then the live chat and the comments below the video will be busier and more Celtic fans will get involved. So subscribe to the channel. Also subscribe to the website as well, www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. £1 for 6 months and you'll get Tony's piece on the managerial hunt and speaking to two ex-players about Celtic's current job on their hands.
Natalie McMullen. We like Natalie, don't we? I love the Celtic way she said. Thank you, Natalie. That's very complimentary, very kind. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Ryan, we are in a kind of state of flux in terms of the manager's position, and it is the kind of, as I said, the hot topic that is on the lips of every Celtic supporter. International breaks are, everybody loves their club fix, don't they? International breaks can be long and, tedious and boring for some people if you're not of the international football ilk, but this one in particular, you just feel as if there's a particular limbo here in terms of information about Celtic and, because it's all premised on the new manager. Yeah, they've got a cup final to look forward to, but I think everybody was looking at this international break to see some kind of movement, whether that be an appointment or whether that be the preferred list of candidates becoming widely known and then interviews taking place, Ryan. But as of yet, none of that has happened. We're nearly at the end of the first week of the international break.
Yeah, we're only at Wednesday. We're only halfway through. We're not even halfway through as we're live 12 o'clock on Wednesday, and we'll be near enough halfway through the week. I know that doesn't exactly rhyme off in terms of maths has never been my strong point, Tony. Don't even get me to do sums on this. I'll talk about Celtic and Celtic only. There's been no movement yet, and somebody made this point earlier on in the live chat. I think it's important that Celtic address the supporters on what is happening. If Martin O'Neill is to stay on, then tell the support that. The support will get behind Martin O'Neill. It's not an admission of defeat. We know that Celtic are looking for a manager. They stated it in their statement following Brendan Rodgers' departure. We know they're working in the background. So if you haven't identified your preferred candidate yet, or your preferred candidate isn't available, that's not a problem. I think that people would much rather want Celtic to be doing their due diligence in this search, in this hunt for Brendan Rodgers' replacement. So yeah, whatever's happening, I think it's important for Celtic to communicate with the fans. It's something that they've not really been good at in recent weeks and months, but it's a good way to go about it, to just be honest about the situation. Yes, you'll get a couple of negative comments from people on social media, but that's just what you're dealing with social media, unfortunately. I just want them to be honest, upfront and open with the support on their managerial hunt. They were like that with Eddie Howe, to be honest. They did admit that due to factors outside both Eddie Howe and Celtic's control, he couldn't become the Celtic manager, and that was out there in the open. eventually. They did take a bit of time to bring out that statement, I remember, but I think that honesty can really help mend the relationship between the two sectors.
I think that limbo situation I'm talking about is driving the dogs wild as well, Ryan. You know what I mean? It's I think they're upset that a new Celtic manager, there's not a lot of news. But Wazza Boy coming in saying he's been a Celtic Way member for a year now and he loves every show. Very kind. We really appreciate that. As I say, it is everything. It's uppermost on the Celtic supporters' minds, morning, noon, and night. Ryan, there's no escaping it that every Celtic supporter is desperate to know who that new man will be, and they will find out in the fullness of time. But it's you always find that during the international break things go quiet, don't they?
Yeah, the calm before the storm. You would hope, hopefully, a positive storm with who Celtic appoint as their next manager. But it does feel as if there's a calm at the moment. You're awaiting with bated breath to see if all of Celtic's players can come back from the international break fit and healthy. Fingers crossed that can be the case. I know that 12 players are out. That they're out on international duty with their respective nations. Fingers crossed they can all do well for their countries and come back in one piece. Special shout out in particular to Michel-Ange Balikwisha, who's been called up for the first time to the Democratic Republic of Congo squad alongside Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who actually got a couple of England caps, but they've now chosen to represent I think the nation of their parents' birth. So yeah, good luck to Michel-Ange Balikwisha. Hopefully he can get some game time and really kickstart his Celtic career coming back. If he can get some game time for his new nation, then he can come back and hopefully be a first-team player for Celtic. I was quite disappointed to see that he was left on the bench at the weekend, though when Yang came on he did win the penalty, so there was no complaints there for his small contribution to the match.
Indeed. Yeah, that's a fair shout, to be fair. Celtic beating Kilmarnock 4-0 gives us a kind of fill-up heading into the international break. We'll probably call it a day there, Ryan, unless you've got anything else you wanted to add to today's show. Anything pressing on your mind or Celtic-wise?
I just want to say a big thank you to the people in the comments that have brought up questions for us. They really do help us pad out the show. Of course, when there's not that much new information, especially in the managerial hunt, then it can be quite difficult to do these shows when you've got no new information coming through. But we do appreciate all your questions coming in, and yeah, keep them coming. Basically, we'll try and answer as many as we can over the next few days. The international break can be quite tough, so having your input is really, really important. So thank you.
Yeah, I second that. Thanks for that, guys. We'll be back tomorrow. There'll be a combination back tomorrow. It won't be me or Ryan because I think it's my day off. I think Ryan's getting a rest from it as well. But I think yourself and myself could be back on Friday, Ryan. Is that right?
Yep, we're going for a trilogy this week, Tony, you and I. Yeah, it's been enjoyable doing these shows. If you just wish we could bring more news to the fore, but it's always a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks, guys. As I say, over 500 joining us. We really appreciate your input as well. As Ryan said, appreciate the questions. Have a look on the website. A couple of articles up there. You'll enjoy them. Lots talk about the manager on the manager front, as we say. So try and kind of fill in the gaps as we go along. But keep your eyes peeled on the website as well. We'll be all over breaking news, etc., etc. If there is any, Ryan.
Yeah, absolutely. Nothing more to add on that front. We'll try and bring you the news as quickly as we can, as quickly and swiftly as we can. But yeah, fingers crossed there's a wee bit more news in the upcoming days.
Take care, guys. We shall see you tomorrow. Same time, same back channel. You know the drill.
Cheers, guys. Thank you very much.